Okay, then maybe I can just start. Hello, everybody. It's very nice to see you. A warm welcome to all of you. My name is Anneke, and together with Irina, I am actually running the project that has been the background for this webinar we have organized today. This project is called Online Journalism in Depth, and the main goal of this project is to build up 3 topical networks of journalists and experts, actually on 3 topics, and one of them is climate change. The other 2 are health and information society, but today we are in the climate change and climate protection strength, so to say, and we are regularly organizing webinars and other seminars and events for people involved into this project and interested in the topic in general. And today, since we know the next big climate international conference is ahead in Egypt in November, we will focus on the topic of climate financing. And we are very glad that we have one Alina Sokolenko as an expert for today, and she will inform us a bit about the mechanisms that are behind this climate financing, the idea and the agreement that has been made in Paris, and actually the current state of affairs. Alina, we are very happy to have you here, and for the rest of the webinar, I will leave the floor to Irina, who has organized this and actually is the spiritus rector, so to say, of this webinar. Thank you very much, Irina, for organizing and for using all your contacts and your very important experience in this. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Annika, for introduction part. So nice to meet you all here. I see some journalists, activists, so fantastic, and if some people will join us, we will add them. Nice to meet you, nice to see you here. We're going to discuss climate finance topic in 2 parts. So first part is Alina presentation about general things, and you can also ask any kind of questions to her, because she is great expert in this topic. And after that, next week we will have a discussion with Angelina Davydova. She's a climate journalist, and she has great experience in COP, and everybody can talk with her and prepare a topic for your article, for your media or social media, whatever. So we will have small talk with Alina, and if you will have any questions, you can write them, or you can also ask them in voice. And so I give the floor to Alina.
Okay, hello everyone. So I'm really very pleased to be in this event. It's a little bit quite new for me, because I used to have different types of events, but speaking with journalists on the climate change and sustainability issue, it's quite interesting, but I think that it's critical point for further sustainability development itself, because I believe that the journalists, they are key person to give the voice of climate change, and if the information will be transformed correctly, it means that success will be for sure. So I can actually share some presentation, but at the same time, I would like to have some dialogue, because it's very interesting, not just speaking about some trends and so on, but more answering your question. I can give just some key notes about the sustainability approach, about climate change, where it comes from, and so on. And based on this presentation, we can go deeper in Q&A, or maybe we will change our vector and to go to direct to the dialogue. So first of all, I am familiar with 70 goals and sustainable goals. I mean, so how long or how much you know about that from 1 to 10? Can you just give in the chat just a number, just to understand the level of understanding? 6, 8. Okay, great. Okay, so I see that we don't need actually to go deeper in details regarding the sustainability. I will share my screen, but I would like to warn you about that my presentation in English, they are like in different languages, Ukrainian, Russian, and English, but I will speak English, but for sure you will understand what I mean. Okay, so the first one, I will share this one, and after that we will, okay, 1 second. Because I opened like quite few. Okay, first of all, I will. Okay. Do you see this one? Do you see this
Yes.
my screen?
Yes.
A couple of words about the organization that I am presenting. So it's Association of Sustainable Development Experts, and our key focus is, first of all, it's non-profit organization, yeah, and we are used to work and to cooperate in East Europe and Central Asia, and also in different parts of the world as well. We currently are covering around 12 countries, and a lot of partners, organization partners. Yeah, actually, our main topic is the ecosystem of sustainability and to spread knowledge. Somebody in the hall of waiting. So when we are coming to the topic of sustainability, different people, different business, different stakeholders understand this but its own way. For some it's just the additional loans, for another people it's just some reputational issues and so on. So there is a great room for manipulation, at the same time there is great room for increasing, yeah, and for development itself. And it depends where you are in this location, let us say. Yeah, so we are trying with our organization just to make awareness about sustainability further by networking, by providing the expertise, and by training through all our region. And now we will go deeper in sustainability and deeper in financial sector. So what is the most interesting fact that when we are talking about the sustainability, we are talking about, first of all, about the money and about the flows that are currently in the world. If we will go back in deep history, we will find out that the key sustainability issue and climate change issue already appeared in 17th century, and it was in UK actually. And in UK, when the gardener of the Queen's Garden, when he was digging the plants, and in his garden he was doing something, and the landlord came to him and told him that, look, if you are cutting the tree, you must plant the tree. Otherwise, you will just change the ecosystem of the whole plant ecosystem, and it means that you will change something, and if there changes it will appear, it means that you will change everything further. And therefore it's the first work started from 17th century. And for sure I believe that you know about about Brundtland Conference, about Paris Alignment, and so on. So it's just the first steps, but really all the time we are around sustainability, we are around the climate change, but sometimes we don't see that it's about the climate change or it's about sustainability. And even now, when we have the geopolitical change regarding the energy consumption, regarding the nuclear power, everything is around climate change and sustainability. And still, when we are seeing the market share of China and US, still there are room for sustainability. And we can dig further to find out where the interests of each country. So if we will look at the market share of the, let us say, like ESG companies, do you know ESG, what does it mean? Just again, from 1 to 10, could you put in the chat? 10, okay, great.
Yes, I know about it.
Great. Yeah. So just for those who don't know, or just to remind, we have like ESG. E is everything that is connected with environment. Mostly we are using it when we are talking about the cost of the product and services. So it's environment. If you will manage your costs, it means that your product will have the added value. So it's environment. It means resources, the management of resources. The other thing, it's social. It's our key stakeholders and our cooperation with them. So we can say that S is around the human. And governance, it's our transparency, our audits, our management, our governance, and everything that is connected with that. So all three spheres is about the risks. And if the company and if the market manage very good with their ESG risks, it means that they are thinking in long terms. And therefore, when we are looking at the market share of the companies, we can see and observe that every year the share of ESG investment increasing. Why they are increasing? Even when we are taking, for example, the investment company Bloomberg, you know that they own more than 7 billion dollars companies, and they put their main target to transfer all the assets in ESG. It means that they are much worried about their assets in reality because of climate change, because there is a real threat to their assets, because of floods, because of the fires, and so on. So they decided just to insure their assets, and therefore they are looking for ESG, and they are looking for climate change performance. But it's for them, it's not because they are so polite and nice because of their nature. No, they are just worried about their assets, and therefore they want to have insurance regarding their assets, that they will not disappear because of the different disasters and so on. And therefore, US, they are coming every year more and more critical key players on the market regarding sustainability. And again, when we are looking on the political side, for example, when we are looking for the campaign of Donald Trump and campaign of Biden and Obama. He was direct for the climate change, he was in line with Paris alignment and so on. But at the same time, we had the Trump who decreased everything, and he just declined everything connected with environmental risks and issues. And after that, we have another one campaign. It's Biden with his climate initiatives and so on. And it means that it's just the matter of the fact of how to say, противостояние. Even I don't know how to explain this. So all the time there is like the black and white and the changes of position. And we can see and observe that in 2022, there are supposed to be like $41 billion and even 50 trillion dollars up to 25 years supposed to be under sustainability assets. So the market share increasing, and for sure the key leader is United States and Europe. But at the same time, we need to focus on Asian countries as well, because maybe you can find out that for the last year and a year before, the Chinese was the key player on the energy sector of renewable energy sector, and they produced a lot of solar and wind energy. Yeah, so maybe you have here some question, because I need to fill the audience as well. Do you? Yeah, so if we will come closer to ESG and to the criteria which we have connected with all this sustainability issue, we can see that we have a lot of understanding and a lot of terminology of it, and you will observe it even on the conferences, global conferences, that the different stakeholders will have its own approach to it. For example, the lenders, like the development banks, they have their own policy on environmental and social policy, and they have their own toolkits, and they have own climate change measurement. So there are currently like 2,000 indicators connected with sustainability, and more than 600 different rating agencies. And still, I think that if we will dig more, we will find more and more. I don't know if there's, oh, okay. Somebody coming, and okay. So again, and it depends about whom we are talking. If we are talking about different agencies, their own criteria. Some lenders using, for example, Bloomberg criteria. Another one you may know, Sustainalytics, and it's Morningstar. They're quite famous in United States and European countries, but at the same time, the other companies, for example, EcoVadis, that are most covering the productional companies, they're used to EcoVadis platform or something like similar to it. But at the same time, all these agencies and all stock exchange that normally use this reference to climate change and to sustainability performance, they rely on its own approaches. Yeah, and you can find different approaches. It depends what the investors want to see when they are talking about sustainability. Again, the main key point regarding the climate change and sustainability, it's something that we need to measure to take decision to invest or not to invest. Everything is around the money. Yeah, and ESG is just the key tool just to measure your investments, and that's all. So it's just a very convenient tool that can just digitalize your performance. Yeah, so and your alignment with climate change as well, because the climate change is just only the 1 point from environmental issue that are covered in ESG performance. Okay, what does it mean when we will look from the financial part on the company? For example, here you can see the 3 graphics. The first graphic showing us the cost of the company, and if you will see this blue mark, yeah, on the first graphic, you will see that the highest price of the company with very good performance on ESG, the rating of this performance AAA, it means that ESG performance is very high and the risks to investments is lower rather than CCC. It's the company with the bad performance or without ESG performance at all. So it means that if your company follow, or the businesses or the industry have in line very good ESG performance or sustainability approaches, it means that the share will increase and the risk will decrease for the investor. And it means at the same time, the volatility is quite not so big as for the traditional company. And of course, we can observe that during the period of time starting from the 2010 or even earlier, when the World Bank started working on ESG and environmental social criteria, it was like in 1995, the sustainability companies started decrease and the market increasing all the time. They are increasing. Similar situation is this graphic shows the market of the European market, but the similar we can observe in America as well. But it again in America, it's very connected with their geopolicy and still very political issue regarding climate change and sustainability. And even now, they are putting all the time in their gas production and oil production, but still the gas and oil production, because they are going to replace the products from the Russia because of the war and all these consequences that we currently have. And the America, they are putting their products instead of the Russian products, and it means that they need to produce a huge amount of oil and gas, but at the same time this amount should be in line with sustainability principles. So the America has two ways currently how to do these alignments. First, to change the legislation and to make it softer, or another one to try to be in line with this regulation. But again, America is supposed to ship oil and gas to Europe, and we currently know that Europe have very straight and very strict sustainability performance and everything that is connected with climate change, with EU taxonomy, with all this green. Okay, somebody coming. Okay. Therefore, America should be in line with the European principles. So we will see how they manage it. Currently, I see a great boom in the market, and they are looking experts. They are looking for the consultancies. They are looking for approaches how some companies trying to omit, but another one trying to put the sustainability approach as its strategy. And again, the Bloomberg is the key company that are looking. The company are looking at. Okay. We have the threats and that affect humanity, and it means that the market, financial market, and the economy normally they have its own answer on it. For example, when we are looking for the COVID, and COVID have pretty changed the market of the company of the economy worldwide. And if we look at the company, traditional company, and the company that are in line with sustainability approaches or ESG or climate change approach, it doesn't matter. During the COVID, their cost of their share were higher than traditional one. What does it mean? It means that the company just could manage their own risks during the time of pandemic, and they were more strategically they had longer strategy of development, and the people used to believe them. First of all, it's investors, they believe them. They believe that the company who has ESG performance very high, that they are carry of social part that was very important for the during the pandemic and during COVID, because the social part was the most under impact, let it say, because everybody focused on its own feeling, its own performance, and so on. And it was like quite a big threat for the humanity itself, and therefore the company rethink their policy as well. And therefore, for sure, we can see it like in a mirror, the market share of these companies on the stock exchange. Therefore, you can see on the right hand, the company traditional, they are decreasing their prices, and sustainable companies, vice versa, they increase. And the similar, when we are talking about the different approaches, we can see here Sustainalytics, Refinitiv, and other indexes that are similar, and they show the increasing the performance of the company. Maybe there are some questions. Please just I don't see. Or just type. Okay. Oh,
Yeah,
no.
so maybe for now there is no questions, and you can continue. And I think that people will just write them. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because still I wanted to have some dialogue and to understand yeah, if it is something new, or maybe you already know this. We are listening. Okay, great. We are listening. So the next, what I wanted to show you further, again, it's the just 1 second. I will try to take. Again, about the funds, and we can observe that during the pandemic, again, the ESG or sustainability market increased all the time, and especially when the threats appeared. And we can observe that in Europe, the amount increased in billions dollars, and the same was for US. So it means that there is the transformation of the values itself in East and in European countries and American countries, because again the threats were very close to their values, let it say, yeah, and therefore the market all the time answering these changes. And we can see also another one example I wanted to share, another one thread connected with the war which we have currently. The first days or weeks or months of the war, the situation covered changes in the market, not only in Ukraine or Russia or our neighbors, but it also covered throughout the world. It means that the oil prices, the food prices increase, and if we are increasing the prices, it means that the companies and the economy changes itself. Therefore, okay, I will answer later. So I will answer later after this presentation on all questions. Yeah. So regarding the prices during the war, of course, the prices on food, on oil, gas, metal, they increased, and some regions, for example, Africa, they suffered the most because of the food loss, and it's not because only of Ukraine, but also because of the sanction for the Russia. Still, we need to understand that the Russia is a huge producer, the same as Ukraine, in agricultural production, and because of the sanctions, because of the war, other part of the world just didn't receive all this amount, the products and services that normally they used to receive. And what we can see on the market of the economy market and the price of the company, we can observe that the companies with ESG ratings, they are vice versa, they are decrease. For example, during the COVID, they increased, and during the war, they decreased. So we can see opposite situation here. And if somebody can answer me why it happened, what your thoughts about that, please? I don't see. Okay, so we will speak about it later then. Okay, so regarding the sustainability wave, yeah, why sustainability and climate change and financial in green companies, green market increase? First of all, there are different facts on that, and one of them is the sustainability wave. New millennials that are currently used to come for becoming the managers and the active at the companies, they are taking decision from other angle rather than the silent generation of baby boomers. There is the transformation of values, and still when we are talking about the baby boomers, for example, or the people from X, yeah, their values were on increasing their assets, their own assets, like the flat, the cars, maybe something land, I don't know, something else. But new generation, they are thinking about other values, for example, of the travelings, they are thinking about education, they are thinking about freedom itself, yeah. And it means that when they are coming to decision making, so the sustainability principle will be the first one, and only after that they will think about the assets itself. And therefore it's the key driver of the changing of the market itself. And there is the new terms. The terms is regeneration era. Maybe you heard about that. It's the era that are commonly used for the green economy and recycle economy. It means that the era of zero waste. And maybe you heard about the key
I think Alina has lost connection.
Oh, I thought that it's mine. Okay, so I hope that everything fine in her place.
Mm-hmm.
I think now she left the meeting and she will come back. Fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now is everything good? Yeah.
Sorry. You don't have the light anymore. Yeah, so I just switch on my quite difficult situation currently in Ukraine. Okay, I will share my screen again. Do you see it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, because I don't have the light there, I can lose a little bit the internet connection. So don't worry, I will just again will come back. I'll try because I'm using mobile internet, and so it can be not very good. Okay, so coming back to the different generation again, when we are talking about generation Z or millennials or alpha, so they are thinking about future development of the future on the values of freedom, on the values of IT and so on. So they are not thinking about the fossil fuel, and therefore their key decision will be more sustainable rather than other generation. Okay, and when we are looking at the companies itself, and their owners or the board members. We can find and observe that the board members, they are not very familiar with sustainability. Most of them, they are still thinking that it's a great trend, it's the interest of lenders, or it's just some wants from stock exchange, but very small amount of the board members or the managers really think that sustainability is something that is valuable and something that will bring them money. And when we observe what they're thinking about each of the parts, for example, social, environmental, where the climate change is, and governance, we will find out that most companies are interested only in social part. It means that they are interested in the part where the human are where the connection with the human. Again, it's because it's easier to understand rather than just to understand what does it mean climate change. You know, if the people cannot touch or cannot see, for them it's very difficult to understand about what we are talking. Yeah, and even in my practice, when I communicated with the, I used to be at the consultancy for the huge agro holding here in Ukraine, and we are almost 10,000 people used to work, and the owner of the company is very famous in sustainability issue, but it took for him 8 years to understand that sustainability, it's not planting the trees and not putting a new windows to school, because still he was thinking that just to give some charity to the, I don't know, to the school or kindergarten, it will be the sustainable company. No, sustainable company is the company that manage its own risks. And sustainable company is the company or the business where they are decreasing the raw materials and the resources that they are using, and they are decreasing the impact on environment, and they are managing their influence on that. So we can observe that really about 20% are thinking about the social part, yeah, and around 6% for governance and environment, and still very small for the climate change itself. Yeah, mostly companies or businesses, they are speaking about the climate change only when there is the huge need, and the huge need appears only if the company want to develop. For example, they want to have some investments, and the investors needs this risk decreation, or their company is going on a market, new market, for example, a European market or American market, or even China. But at the same time, for example, I know that Kazakhstan, they have their own green taxonomy. So it means that Kazakhstan, they are leading in taxonomy, in their green taxonomy. Still, there's some room for improvement because they are a little bit vary from the taxonomy from European Union, but still they have their own. Yeah, what I wanted to say more. Okay, so I will. Again, somebody is coming. Okay, so there are 5 reasons why we need to think about sustainability, because it's the long-term strategy. The first and the most important is investors. And for example, when we are looking at the development banks, who are the most famous investors in the region of, again, Ukraine, Armenia, Moldova, all these countries, it's development banks. And normally development banks, they have their funds, pension funds, and so on. And those investors, they are not interested in quick money. They're interested in long strategy. And it means that for them, it's the long strategy, and long strategy is very important for decision making. And they therefore they will go for the company that will think about their capitalization for a long period. And it means long period means sustainability period. Yeah, so the first one is demand from investor, then new technology. There are like two key trends of new reality. It's decarbonization and technology. So both of these key factors, they're stimulating the innovation of the products. And it means that, again, the sustainability is coming on the first place. And of course, the energy sector, new alternative ways to find, especially now, even when I prepared this presentation, it was before the energy crisis, but still, even now, it's the most critical. Yeah, and all alternative energy is much needed now. Again, when we start looking at, for example, solar or wind energy, we cannot use it all the time because still they require another kind of resources. For example, when we are talking about solar panels, it's impossible to use them instead of fossil fuel because they require a huge amount of territory. The same for the wind energy. So we need to find a new innovation product in the energy market. Then it's competitors. Of course, if there are pillars on the market, of course, there will be the battle for the clients, and it means that the company with higher sustainability performance will have better clients and the share of the market higher. And again, if we will deeper in research and media coverage and all this stuff, we will find out that it's the trend is increasing and everybody is speaking about that. And for example, if the company will be not in line with sustainability principle, you will think about if to buy the products or the services from this company. So it's not like wish to have, it's for sure must be. And currently we are just looking at the companies who is dealing with its own risks and with own strategy better. So maybe you have here some comments, or I'll ask the question because I found out. Okay, the question: are there any particular tendencies in the market of Eastern Europe, Caucasus, and Central Asia? Are there any regional specifics? Yes, for sure. Especially now. Look, sustainability cannot be like a separate. Sustainability, it's everywhere. Yeah, it's when for example, when I'm coming to the company and I can see that sustainability issue is under one of the supervision of one person, mostly it's HR or PR, or it doesn't matter. It means that the company just normally use sustainability like the argument to show that they are very good, but it's not in operational. It's not on the strategy level. It's mostly like somewhere a part of the main strategy. And similar for the market. It's not something separate. It should be on the market. It's a new rules. And for Eastern Europe, Caucasus, and Central Asia, the main trend, as I mentioned today, is the investors. And investors, they are worried about their risks. They are worried about their money. and they want to be sure that they will come, the money will come back to them, and they will be sure only in case if the risk will decrease. And again, is the company, the countries, Eastern Europe, Caucasus, and Central Asia, normally they have very high risk of the countries. And when the high risk of the country, it means that the company where the investor should go is supposed to be very good, really very, very good. Otherwise, there will be no investors, because when investors do their choices, they look at the risk of the country, they look at the risk of the company, and they combine everything, and they only after that, after the good assessment, they are thinking invest or not invest. For example, for Ukraine, there will be no investor currently because the risk of the country is very, very high because of the war, and nobody will invest currently when the active actions are now. There will be investors only after the war stops, but not now, because the risk of the country is very high. This similar, for example, when we are talking about the countries where some political destabilization, or in a period of the voting, or in the period of some change, legislation changes or whatever, it means that the risk of the company can be very high, and an investor will think if they want to invest in this country. As for these regions, normally, because I used to work with World Bank, with IFC, EBRD, and some Western development banks, they are all focusing on 3 spheres for this market. I mean, Eastern Europe, Caucasus, and Central Asia. It's agricultural market, so they are wondering about sustainability agriculture. Then energy market, energy at different types of alternative energy. So it's biofuel, wind, solar, and everything that is connected with that. And it's the bank service. It means that through the local banks, they are spreading their loans to small and medium-sized businesses and so on. So 3 main spheres, and it's much depending on the region where it is. For example, and moreover, for example, other banks, for example, EBRD, they are more focusing on infrastructure development. So it's the fourth, I would say, direction. So regional specifics, not enough money to invest into ESG because of other priorities. What does it mean? Could you explain?
It actually was answer for your questions that you previously asked the participants. So maybe, but we can ask Maria to comment it. Yes, okay. And actually we have one more question from Annika. Maybe you can also answer it. So what role does private investment play in climate protection as compared to public investment in Eastern European and South Caucasian countries?
A huge role. Private investment, they are similar to the other types of investments here, because they are thinking the same. They are just calculating their own risks. And when we are speaking about the climate change, again, there could be like 2 key drivers. The first one is to be insured of your own assets, of your own investments. For example, if you want to invest, I don't know, in the sugar production on Bali, for example, yeah, you need to understand that Bali is going to be underwater in a couple of years or whatever, something like that. So it means that here you will invest in climate protection as well, yeah. Or another one, when you are in cooperation with other partners, sorry. And the key drivers, it's the trends and its regulation that already develop on sustainable principles and already develop on the climate change regulations and requirements. So normally, currently, I mean, in all EU regulation, the climate change is the key driver, and everything that is connected with greenhouse gas emission and the program 55 feet and all this stuff, I mean, like the Green Deal and everything, that they are all around the climate change. And still, there are no one rule how to what the basic, where the basic is, because every year we can observe the new changes. For example, if we are talking about the gas, so the gas, is it fossil fuel or it's the green energy? Still there are a great negotiation on that, as well as on the nuclear power. Yeah, so again, it depends with whom you are talking. If you are talking with some private investment companies or funds or whatever, you need to look at their own policies and what they are drivers. And for example, if private investments have the other donors, so they will rely on the other donors' requirements and so on. But for sure, it will be the huge role in all investment, all types of investments on the trends and the situation on the market. Because again, the main driver on sustainability and the climate change is investments. If there will be no investments in sustainability or climate change, so there will be no changes, because on activities of NGOs or other activities, there will be no changes at all. And if we are talking, for example, for Paris alignment and everything was connected to that, I believe that this year on the COP27 there will be again a new commitments on that, because if you are following the commitments from Glasgow, not much improved, yeah. And I believe that there will be a new agreement on alignment. Still there the key gap between developing countries and developed. As you may know, that developing countries, they are requested to Вікторія, як буде відшкодування збитків? Damage compensation. Yeah, no. Climate change compensation. Because the poor countries, they are telling to the general public that the developed countries, for example, EU countries or America, they are guilty because of the climate change, because of their high production, especially America. And when they started on their position where they are setting up the policy of climate change, yeah, and there is no right for them to give some rules regarding the climate change for the poor countries. So there is a huge gap within these two sides, like developed countries and poor countries. And I believe that this year, this communication will be with very high peak because previously on Glasgow, this question raised, and United States just decreased this, and they just didn't move further with communication regarding this issue. And I know that Indonesia, they were very actively on compensation, on this climate change compensation, and they were asking to develop the fund of compensation, this climate change. But still, it's the open question, because if UK or European countries or America will accept this, it means that they are responsible for the climate change that are happening now. And for sure, I believe that these countries will never go for this. Okay, maybe more questions.
Yes, maybe our participants can write, yes, but also we announced the topic of green climate funds, so maybe you can somehow comment on this topic and what kind of projects are already in the region and what could be the trends.
Okay, so regarding the regarding the funds, yeah, there are different types, different funds for the climate change and everything that is connected with that, and mostly they're focusing currently on the energy sector and alternative ways of energy neutrality and some research in these fields. Is the first one. The second one is the sustainability in the livelihood and restorations, and so it's animal welfare. So they are very direct connected with the climate funds, and for example, you can find some development banks, they're already accumulating their own funds for climate change. And for example, there's a Dutch fund for climate and development, and they are focusing mostly on the nature protection and sustainability, agricultural production, and again everything around sustainability approach in agro and energy. So this is the key factors of all the funds. So yes, there are differences. So there's again, even UN programs, they have variety programs via the region, like in Ukraine, in Moldova, in Caucasus, and so on. But they're also focusing on agricultural production, animal welfare, and energy sector. So it's their main focus. Did I answer?
Yeah, thank you so much. We're still waiting for some questions, so if you have some, please write them in the chat, or you can answer them directly. Yeah. Who is eligible for funding? Governments, also private entities? I think it's it's
the most interesting question. Oh, it depending from whom you are talking. Starting from the small companies, startups, up to the government sector, up to the private public companies, and so on. So it depends on what level you are. For example, if you are a startup or a small company, you can apply for different funds, again, in your country or internationally, or EU or Green Deal fund, or whatever. There are a lot of funds, it's very difficult even to calculate how many they are. And you can obtain for any environmental or Okay, I'm here. Okay, some environmental solutions or climate change solutions, especially environmental IT solutions, IT technology solutions. You can just to receive some grants and support. Another one type, when the private companies, they can receive the funds like the credits or the loans with smaller margin if their project will be sustainable. So if they have the sustainable or climate solutions within their projects, for example, in agricultural production or energy sector, it means that you can have very good loan with lowest interest rate rather than traditional one. Even sometimes you can receive additionally to the to traditional loan to receive some grant support. It's a very familiar practice for EBRD. They sometimes they are just giving the loans, at the same time they are giving you some grants to cover this loan, and it's very interesting, but mostly it's in agricultural production and in energy sector. And again, the government can receive the loans, the funds, and there are like international funds, for example, SIDA. They are quite popular in the region of East Europe, Caucasus, and Central Asia. So SIDA and European fund, they are very support municipalities, especially with energy, so energy solutions decisions, and some modernization programs. I know that GIZ are very actively on modernization programs. So it means that for municipalities and for government sector, they are most focusing on the support of their human well-being. So everyone can receive the green support or green funds. Again, it depends where, who you are, and for what you want. So I believe you can find there is like supermarket. Yeah. Okay.
Alina, can you hear us? Okay.
Yes, yes, I'm writing, yeah, okay. Reading. Yeah, satisfying amount.
Yeah, so.
Project supporting. It's very good question. Very good question. Look, there are a lot of applicants from Eastern European countries. A lot of, but there is one problem for them. They are not very good in applications. Sometimes the project can be very cool, but to receive the funds and to be in line with regulation of the donors of funds or development banks or where, I don't know, investors, you need to be in line with requirements to application. And the key problem of all these countries is that the applicants, they are not familiar with these requirements, and for them it's just very difficult to write the application. So the problem not in the project, the problem in writing the proposal, in presenting the application to the donor. And I believe that there is like 90% of failure is only the application form, and that's all, because there are different types of funds, and you can receive it. But again, you need to follow some principles and to be in line with their regulation. For example, the company that are applying, they have to have ESG performance, you know, like anti-bribery policy, all this stuff, like stakeholder engagement, all this interaction within the company. And normally for Eastern countries, it's not normal practice, let us say, because the companies and they're only starting using this approach, but they're at the beginning of this journey, and therefore for them it's quite difficult just to receive this funds. Okay. I hope that I answered that. But one key point for those applicants who would like to receive the donor support, I would recommend to find out the company or the organization that already received such support. For example, if you are, I don't know, agrarian company and you would like to receive some support from Dutch Development Fund or whatever, and you would like to have some modernization on your farm, go to WWF, for example, World, you know, this Panda organization. They are very good in the writing proposal and application. So you can be in cooperation with them and receive this support. For example, WWF will provide you some expert support, and they will help you to receive this funding, and you will come and you will receive this funding. But if you will not follow this good partner, it will be difficult for you to go this journey alone. Normally, this funding requires the high reputational performance and all this stuff. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, we already talked more than 1 hour. So okay, we have one more question.
Yeah,
is it
funding
also
for
possible
media.
to receive funding for media focusing on environmental issues? Oh, great.
Yeah,
great question for
it's, yes, you can apply, for example, to how it's workshops. There are a couple of funds that are supporting the media, and it's currently it's coming very famous. Not Warshawski, maybe you remember in those fund Warshawski or not Warshawski, the last one fund. They are supporting media. Look, it's possible, really possible, but at the same time, I would recommend you again to find a good partner to go with. Yeah, at least find a partner that already received some supporting from the donors, which who has already the history of receiving the funds. It means that like 50% you already there if you will go. Yeah, but if you will go like unknown company to famous donor, it will be very difficult way for you to go there. So just media, they will support for sure. Вышеградский фонд. Вот. Вышеградский фонд, just try them because they are supporting the media. Вышеградский, yeah.
Yeah, I also know some programs, in Visegrad grant for, so
it
will be great for journalists to apply.
Yeah, just try, but they have quite strict requirements, but I know that they support the environmental issue. Yeah, for them it's critical. Okay, I think that I answered the questions.
Yes. Okay. So we will stop. Have a closing remarks. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming. I think that if you will have a time and maybe our journalists will have opportunity to answer your question in a mail, it will be also great if you can answer them. Yeah. And wish you all the best. You're coming to COP. Yes. So I hope that you will find something interesting and you can discuss issues related to Ukraine with international.
I'll speak on circular economy. So it's the next step after sustainability. Okay, it was very nice meeting you. Hope that I answered the questions, or at least I bring some new points to your table. Please don't hesitate to contact me if you need any other support. Okay, so thank you very much.
To have Angelina with us, and she will tell us, inform us how to prepare interesting and publications for our audiences. So, Angelina, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Annika, and a very warm welcome to all the participants of the workshop. I did know some of you, and that's very good to see. And so the organizers have asked me to share a few ideas and some of my experience about how to write about climate finance specifically. And I believe the seminar which you attended last week and which n-ost last week was organized around the issue of climate finance in general. So this seminar today is more about how to write about climate finance. And I would suggest we follow the schedule, which goes like this in the next 50 minutes. So I will share some of my experience about how to write about climate finance. Then we would go into some individual work and prepare some ideas about what kind of stories you might have. Then we all gather back in the classroom and present these ideas and also give feedback to the ideas of each other. Now I'm sharing my presentation. Okay, so climate finance. Sorry, I think my connection is not very good, so I'll just stop my video and I think it will be better, right? So, so how to write about climate finance? As you probably know, climate finance is not one of the easiest topics to go around. It may sound too technical, it may sound too complicated. It's also about finance, and sometimes financial stories can be really tricky and really challenging. And even though people generally do care a lot how to, observe the questions relating to their money and their personal finances, whenever the topic comes to public finance or also something like climate finance, that is very often a challenging topic to present, to write, to pitch ideas, and also to form stories and narratives. So how do we, so where can we find ideas and inspiration for the stories? And what kind of stories can actually work out? And where can we find inspiration for the particular stories we can write about climate finance? So basically, well, I'll start with there's a list I made on the right-hand side of the slide, and I'll start with something called taxonomy. So taxonomy, which may sound a bit like a complicated word, it's basically a rule book for climate or green finance in the country. Many countries have it. Also, many associations or international organizations have it. Basically, it's rule book which says what is being considered to be climate finance and what is being considered to be green finance. For example, which kind of projects do qualify to be green and which kind of projects do qualify to be climate friendly. Now, there can be a lot of possible interesting, exciting stories, including investigative stories in this taxonomy. Why is that? For example, if you look at the European Union taxonomy for green finance or sustainable finance, we will see how there was a very big and long discussion on whether natural gas should be included in the European Union sustainable and climate finance, whether nuclear energy should be included as sustainable finance. And these discussions are still going on. So we have certain positions of certain actors who say, yes, we should include this. Those are important energy sources for the transition towards decarbonization. So the idea is we first allow them, and then we gradually switch to renewable energy per se. But then there's also a position from many environmental and climate activists which say, no, we should not do this. If we allow this to happen, they will take a lot of money, a lot of climate finance money, and there'll be very little money and resources left for the renewable energy as it is, so like wind, solar, and other kinds of energy. So there's an ongoing discussion going on in many countries, and also, as I said, in the European Union, the discussion is still going on. So the latest version of the taxonomy actually did acknowledge that both natural gas and nuclear energy are sustainable and are green. However, now there are a number of environmentalists and there are a number of climate groups who are actually suing the European Commission for acknowledging that, demanding that that should be taken off. So the first thing to look into is the rule book, either in your country or within the source that your country is getting money from. What is considered to be green? What is considered to be sustainable? Just to give you another idea, in many countries' contexts, for example, hydropower is also considered to be green or sustainable. And here, once again, there's a lot of debate about it. And many environmentalists actually think, no, that's not the case. We should not acknowledge that hydropower is sustainable and is green and is climate friendly. Now, there's something which is here called further regulation. And that, once again, it can be done either at the country level. For example, how much money is being spent on what? On resilience infrastructure, on infrastructure being built for climate adaptation, on renewable energy, on energy efficiency. So like follow the money story. So where the money is coming from, where is it going to, who is tracking that money, which projects are being supported, and actually which results or impact they have. I co-host a podcast which is called the Eurasian Climate Brief, and we also do this podcast together with n-ost. And last fall, there was an episode which we dedicated to climate resilience project in Georgia. And we spoke to a number of Georgian environmental experts who brought up very interesting examples of how international climate finance was spent in Georgia for climate adaptation projects. However, later these climate adaptation projects didn't work out. So they built something like a dam and then it was destroyed, didn't work out. And a lot of this infrastructure just didn't live longer than a year. Now, it's obviously a very important story, also a globally important story, because there's a lot of discussion about climate finance, where the money is coming from, where the money is coming to, who is spending this money, and whether we are accountable, who is accountable, and whether we have enough transparency and accountability and actually sustainability of the project per se. Like which results do we have, which impact the projects have, do they really benefit communities? For example, in the area of climate adaptation or climate resilience. And there are obvious cases of like mismanaging, corruption, or just waste of resources, including climate finance. Now, those were the areas, so to say, to look into potentially, to investigate in and to research in when looking for your stories. Now, if we go more like closer to what story ideas, and what kind of stories, what kind of story formats can we build on after our initial research? I would certainly say some of the stories can be political or economic. So you can follow the regulation, you can follow political decision, you can follow the money, as we mentioned it. Some of the stories can be international, because like most of climate finance is international, and it's coming from international donors, including the UN foundations like Green Climate Fund, the Adaptation Fund, also sometimes from UNEP, United Nations Environmental Program. It also sometimes comes from the multilateral development banks. And a story which tracks a particular project with international finance and international involvement obviously makes interest not only for the local audience, but also for the global audience. Now, there's a lot of also potential within investigative stories. And I've kind of described in my previous slide what are the areas we can look into when we're really trying to go and do investigation in the area of climate finance. And then on the positive side, there's also something which is called solution journalism stories, Well, actually, some of the projects which were realized and which worked well. For example, when a country or region or a city or a community received international grant or received international loan connected with climate finance, and it was spent and something, a kind of an infrastructure or something else was created. And that infrastructure is actually working and it's useful and it has a positive impact on the life of the local communities. And this is when we can also write something which is a solution journalism story. So we can see how a particular project worked out, how something is here and it's working. And well, in a way, it will be like a good story. I think there are a few very specific requirements for the solution journalism story to actually be solution journalism and not PR of an, I don't know, UN agency. So I always feel like you first have to start with the problem. So like what problem were we trying to solve? Then the story of the financial flow, where the money was coming from, who gave how much, where was the money spent, who spent it, who actually received the money, were those private companies or were those public entities. And then we'll look at what has been done, what are the results. We describe the actually the positive results and also the impact on the lives of people. And then after that, it's also always good to think whether that kind of story, that kind of project can be implemented elsewhere and done elsewhere, and whether this will be a good idea. So basically, that would be the structure of the solution journalism story. And that kind of journalism, from my experience, is getting more and more attention in the last few years. And this is also something that many journalists and many media outlets are looking into. So now, before we proceed to our practical work, I would like to share the links and also the contacts and the references to a number of projects which I'm doing. And some of these projects also do have content connected to climate finance. For example, this is the podcast, which I already mentioned, the Eurasian Climate Brief. And we do have stories sometimes connected with climate finance. As I mentioned last year, there was one story about investigation of climate money being misspent in Georgia and a subsequent investigation by the Georgian environmentalists. Then later, we also had an episode where we spoke about international climate finance for Central Asia. What kind of money is coming from, where's the money is being directed to, which countries receive the most, and what is mostly needed for Central Asia as one of the most climate vulnerable regions in the world. And then there's also a magazine which is called Environment and Law. And until recently, it was published only in Russian. Now it will be published both in Russian and in English. And we do pay a lot of attention to climate reporting and also climate finance reporting. So you might find some interesting stories there as well. So I will stop sharing my screen now. And I see that we have quite a few new participants who joined, so very warm welcome. And now I would suggest the following. I would suggest, because we just have 4 participants, if I'm not mistaken, I would suggest that each participant works out his or her idea for a climate finance story. Something which concerns your country, your region, your area of interest, something within either international aspect of international climate finance or domestic green finance. Maybe try and think of a story which can be useful, and also try and think of a plan for the story. Like, how would you write it? Who would you talk to? What would be the plan of the story, and how you would present it to the audience? It's 5:25 now in Berlin. So I would suggest I would leave 15 minutes for your work. So we meet back at 20 minutes to 6. if I'm recalculating the time correctly, in Berlin. And then we'll be looking forward to hearing your story ideas. So what would be the topic? What would be the plan of the story? Climate finance story, green finance story. So all these topics. So we're leaving now for 15 minutes. You're welcome to stay here in Zoom and work out your ideas, and then we'll meet back, and then we'll discuss your ideas. If you want, you are welcome to do a short PowerPoint presentation or to write a few ideas in a Google Doc, something that you can share then. Otherwise, we can also just speak. Yes, thank you, Irina. So who's willing to start? Alina, I think you already had an idea, right?
Yeah, I have an idea. I just came up with it, and I was a little bit distracted by my dog, but I can somehow communicate my idea to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm from Kazakhstan, and there is now an ongoing discussion in Kazakhstan of the draft of the carbon neutrality strategy of Kazakhstan, and the strategy aims at zero carbon emissions by 2060. But the main condition for this, named by our government, is the investments in the amount of 666 billions, which is a lot. So my idea would be to write about where this finances can come from, and whether it's realistic for our government to rely so much on external investments, and why green or climate investors can be not so attracted to investing in the strategy, why the aims of the strategy can be not what is expected by international finance community. That was all I came up with.
Right. So thank you for your idea. And so would you see it, what kind of journalistic story would you see out of it? Like in which format could it come?
Can be, can you please show again that slide with all kinds of formats for stories?
Wait a minute, I have to open it again.
Solution journalism, I just remember, but probably it wouldn't be that one.
Yeah, because solution journalism is basically about a good story, right? From what you are describing, it's not really a good story. It's more about how the strategy which is being drafted now, it actually does not is not that successful and might not get investors interested in it.
Yeah.
Okay, wait a minute. Irina, I think you're doing it. Yeah. Okay.
Political economic aspects, national stories, and negative stories. Probably the political or economic aspects of this, of how expectation can be matched with whatever international finance institutions can offer to Kazakhstan in terms of financing their climate goals.
Right. And what kind of media are you thinking of? Like, what kind of media would you be pitching it for?
Yeah, probably it can be some online outlet, more focused on experts, because here you need to know some knowledge of what we are talking about. So it's not general audience, more like a reference material for people who maybe even for those experts who were involved in drafting or still involved in drafting the strategy, so that they can understand better, because I know that the ministry who is doing this is not very much into this topic. So for them, it's like probably also a new sphere to deal with.
Right. And what do you feel like, who else can you speak to while you're preparing the story?
I can probably single out some representatives from main climate finance institutions, just to give their rough overview whether it's possible or not for our country to secure so much money.
Mm-hmm.
What sources could it be? Yeah, because the strategy now is heavily based on this expectations of having so much investment. So for us, it's a key thing to have so much money, and only in this case we can meet our zero carbon emissions goal. And as Kazakhstan is the most emitting country in our region, if all we plan or expect is not realistic, then we have to do something about this right now, right here, without waiting until 2060.
Right. Yeah. Well, I feel like it's a very good story idea, and also it's a very good impact, because in a way it's trying to look beyond the promises. For example, in a week's time, another round of UN climate negotiations will begin in Egypt, and many countries will just be promising again, like what is it that they're going to do? And with your idea, you're trying to look, what does these promises actually mean? Is there enough money? Is there enough willingness to provide this money? Is there enough willingness to actually do something about it? So yeah, I feel like it would make a very interesting story.
Thank you, Angelina.
Yeah, I certainly support your idea. Yeah, and I will look forward to reading it.
Thank you.
Yeah. So who else do we have? So do we have anyone else willing to present their ideas? Chelpon. Hello, good to see you.
Hi, Angelina. Hi, Irina. Hi, dear colleagues. I see a bit of Central Asia today. Yes, so I think, well, because climate finance is definitely an interesting topic for me, but yet still unexplored. And because I work, let's say, with women, with youth, so those are traditionally considered to be the most vulnerable. So I don't think how good I prepared this thing, but for me, it's very interesting to do some kind of, I don't know, assessment, possibly to see, how, I mean, actually, it's a twofold question. How to what extent these vulnerable countries get that promised finance? So really, on the example of Kyrgyzstan and Central Asia, to see that. And then second, to what extent that climate finance, let's say, reaches those whom we call the most vulnerable, And again, I mean, Central Asia and Kyrgyzstan is the area, let's say, where I want to see this. Yeah, no more than that.
Right, and what kind of format were you thinking of? Like, what can it be?
I don't know, possibly some kind of, I don't know, like mini research maybe, to see, to look at the numbers, maybe compare certain things, and then come up with this nice visualized, maybe information. I don't know, maybe some kind of a, when you ask the format, do you mean an article, an analysis?
It's like an, I don't know, analytical article, or is it like maybe it's also just like an infographic? I actually think from what you're offering, a research and then an infographic could be useful format, because you will have so much data, and you will also have a lot of data on various countries, which is sometimes very difficult to put in a single story, in a single narrative. So maybe just making making like a research and then an analytical article and then an infographic next to it, that could be a really good idea, because it will also show the whole like scope of the region, like what is happening where the money is coming from, where the money is going to, who is getting it, because like also, and I honestly think that that kind of information is certainly lacking. But for example, I very often speak or write about how Central Asian countries are actually receivers of international climate finance, but then there is no overall statistic. Like if I speak about the whole region, I don't know even where to look up for the statistics. Even certain countries don't have it, and the region as a whole doesn't have it. So I think that it's very useful to have this resource, and also like an updated resource, like which country is getting money from which source, like which foundation, which multilateral development bank or UN funded Green Climate Fund or something, where the money is going to, and like kind of accumulated resource, which can also be in various formats, right? So some people might need it in form of a table, some people might need it in form of a like analytical article, which from time to time maybe there'll be like new analysis coming up. And some people, I think the brighter audience can be really reached by like infographics, especially for social media. That would do really well. And it's also something you can put it on a map, you know, show which streams, financial streams are going into which countries. But I also think this is something which is needed for the region, because there's no such information, and it's very hard to find it. It's very hard to find the figures as for the region as a whole, for the countries. So I would certainly, right. So Aliyah says, it's found national communication under UNFCCC, but not for a whole region. Exactly. But do you know how many people will dedicate time to go to the UNFCCC site and look it all up? It's only like very dedicated people do this. But if you can do it for the whole region and also present it in a very easily and accessible way, I think it will be useful. Yeah. Go forward. Exactly, not many at all.
And thank you, because actually, I mean, that was my question, you know, like just besides like looking, let's say, what's there out in the internet, but then really like what other types of sources could be used, but then, definitely national communications would be okay. Thank you.
Yes, so thank you, Chalpon. Well, I think we're done at this point, because Nargis is still having issues with her internet. So maybe I'll pass the microphone back to Irina or Anneke so that they can announce further events which are coming. I see Aliyah is writing to Chalpon, and there's a cooperation coming. Chalpon, check the chat. Yeah, so Irina or Anneke, would you like to comment on anything, or maybe
maybe we can ask some questions if Chalpon or Aliyah have, and maybe Angelina can answer them if you still have some.
No, I mean I was pretty good with the ideas, and I also like give my comments for it. I feel like both of the ideas are very relevant, and also both of their ideas are pretty good, and I would actually I would like to see this project being realized, because I feel like it's also something which are highly needed within the regional context, and also like international context. I would say there'll be quite a lot of international interest towards this.
So if Chalpon and Aliyah will have some articles, please share with us. Yeah, and we will definitely share with other people. I think that it will be really interesting to hear your stories in Kazakhstan.
And also, as you'll be working on it, and if you have any questions, or you're welcome to reach out to me. And so we'll be happy to provide mentoring.
Okay, so
I have a question for Angelina.
Yes, of course, Leah.
I'm just curious how Central Asia is seen for those who are abroad in terms of climate negotiations, climate in any other processes, how Central Asia is perceived, if it's perceived inactive actor in all this, or you can see it as proactive. I don't know, like as a region, how how it's seen to an external observer?
Well, I would say for many years, Central Asia was very little known. There was hardly any information about Central Asia, like Central Asia was not very actively present at the UN climate negotiation level. And I just believe there was too little knowledge. There are also very few international journalists who write about Central Asia in, for example, in English or other like UN languages, and from the point of view of climate. So I would say there was just very little knowledge. Now the situation started changing. And so in the last few years, for example, at the UN level, the countries, the Central Asian countries, they began acting more proactively. Say there was an Central Asia Pavilion last year at the UN climate negotiations where countries kind of got together and they were trying to do something like the whole of them, which I think was a good idea. It's also because they were supporting the efforts of each other, they were telling some new stories, and they've attracted international attention. So that was a good story. I think this year there will not be such pavilion. If I'm not mistaken, this year either Kyrgyzstan or Tajikistan will have their own pavilion, but I forgot which one. Chilpon?
Yeah, it's actually Tajikistan.
Tajikistan.
And, yeah, they do it together with this Karek. Yeah, but it was Central Asia pavilion last year with Karek, but this time it's Tajikistan and
yeah, right. And so that's like one level. And then another level, I believe, is I think it was very positively viewed how Kazakhstan announced its carbon neutrality goal. So that was like big news. It was also like one of the first countries in the region to do this. And also when it's working now on the low carbon long-term development strategy, as you mentioned, there are a lot of issues with it and there are a lot of problems with it, but still this work is kind of being evaluated and estimated, like something is being done, and that's good. So I think that Kazakhstan has more of a reputation of large oil, gas, and coal producer who is, however, thinking about green development and renewable energy. And I would say Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan are seen more in connection with climate risks, being vulnerable, needing a lot of climate finance and needing a lot of like climate adaptation. Turkmenistan has somewhat been like very quiet and hardly anyone understands what's happening there. And Uzbekistan is also being viewed, I would say it's been viewed in two ways. In one way, Uzbekistan had some very good stories about renewable energy development in the last years. And I think especially with the new president, there were a lot of announcements of international investment into solar. So that is something which is also being like messaged. And another story with Uzbekistan is also climate water connection, right? Climate water agriculture, like that's the story. So also climate risks and need for climate adaptation. So I think those are the stories which are kind of circulating with regard to the countries of the region.
This is very interesting to know.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad I could address that.
Very nice. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, so then Irina or Annika, do you have any further announcements about what seminars are coming next?
We definitely will have some workshop next year. Yeah, but thank you so much, Angelina, for coming today and discuss these topics with our participants. I hope that it was really, really useful. And I also want to thank one more time our previous expert, Alina Sokolenko from Association of Sustainable Development of Ukraine. Yes, and everyone will receive recording of this meeting and hopes that they will produce some good articles and share expectation about climate finance in the region. Thank you so much, everyone. And have a good evening. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.